Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friends on Film, where two friends sit down and talk about their favorite thing in the world, movies. My name is Ben Treviño, and joining me today is Michael Dinan, my awesome co-host. How are we today,
So
bro?
far, pretty well. Feeling a lot better from last week when we could not record.
Yeah, Michael ran into, well, you weren't feeling so well,
Yeah, I
right?
think I had the flu and it knocked me out. So that's why there was not an episode last week. But it's all good now.
We're going to give y'all a little bit of a treat today in that we're providing a little bit of a two-in-one. We're going to be providing our, well, not brief, but our general thoughts and reviews of two movies that came out this past February. Considering it was Valentine's, that was when we wanted to have a list out, but we're going to make it up by providing our thoughts on two specific movies that are interesting to say the least in terms of Valentine's movies.
Right. I'll have you start us off with Dracula.
So yeah, Luc Besson's Dracula. This is an interesting slash risky scenario he has put himself in, because not only is he coming off the heels of Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, but he's also in the shadow of Robert Eggers, or is it Roger Eggers?
Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers, yeah. He's also in the shadow of Robert Eggers's Nosferatu, which is already a Dracula story. So going in, let me just get this out of the way. I knew I wasn't expecting a straight up horror movie like those other two, or anything specifically dramatic, because I saw the trailer and I knew this was not going to be on that same level. But with that in mind, I didn't know what to expect going in. But coming out, here's what I'll say. The movie is crazy. This is a movie where that is essentially the Dracula story, but it's trying to tell us the love aspect of his life from a long time ago. Where the movie starts, we get a little bit of an opening sequence involving him and his lover, and if you didn't know that they were lustful for one another, man, there's something wrong. Anywho, she dies, of course, and then we see him like for who he is after all these years, because he misses the one person he loves most, and he cursed God the day he lost her and all that, and that curse with immortality, all that good stuff. Here's the movie. Well, I said the movie's crazy. It has a scene where Dracula has a tower of nuns climbing on for him, and he sucks their blood, of course. And the main actor who plays Dracula plays up the voice very, very well. And God, I almost feel ashamed to admit it, but Luc Besson did utilize Christoph Waltz better than Guillermo del Toro, considering Christoph Waltz plays a Van Helsing character. But the bottom line with this movie, I want to just get to, because I feel like I've been going all over the place, because here's the problem. The movie is all over the place. It wants to tell a love story, but it's also telling a detective story. It also wants to be a Hammer movie, but at its core, it wants to be a drama. There's so much going on, but I think its biggest problem is, even with its focused story of love over lust, if you even want to call it that, it's just my biggest issue with Luc Besson's scripts in general, is that it feels like it was written by a teenager who feels like who thinks he or she may understand what these concepts are, and confuses it for, in this case, love with lust. And that's this biggest movie shortcoming. That being said, the movie was about like 2 hours, maybe 15 minutes. I surprisingly didn't feel the runtime. So if you want to see something that may have a bit of a misguided message on love, but is an insane vampire story or Dracula story, if that's your taste, give it a look. You might have a good laugh. But in terms of a good Dracula movie, and if it's something you truly want, just rewatch Nosferatu.
I will say my one favorite Dracula adaptation has been Coppola's version.
Yes.
It's very wild, and I acknowledge there is a lot of flaws with the movie, but Winona Ryder and Gary Oldman really make that film.
They really do.
And Anthony Hopkins is an underrated Van Helsing.
Yes.
The movie I got to see for Valentine's Day was Wuthering Heights, written and directed by Emerald Fennell and starring Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. Now, I will say right off the bat, I went in totally blind. I did not know really anything about this movie, and I just knew it's a period romance drama. And so walking out of it, I was like, okay, there's some flaws. It's gorgeously shot.
I had a feeling.
The cinematography is pretty beautiful. The production design is very dreamlike and really leans into this aspect. I feel Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, as performances go, do give a really good performance. And I think overall it's an interesting watch. Sadly, though, I should say I'm going to go ahead and give it a 6 out of 10 for my initial viewing. That's where I'm going to sit. But as I've been talking to people about what the book is about and what more is there, so much was cut out. And there are some changes made that don't make a lot of sense when you hear what the story is. And I question why Emerald Fennell chose to adapt this story when she cut out so much of it. And it's really only an adaptation in name only. And another thing I have to add is in the book, so there's been plenty of adaptations of Wuthering Heights over the years. And in the book, however, Jacob Elordi's character is described as a person of color.
Yeah, I remember you brought this up with me at one point, actually.
Right. Now, this has not been a huge thing. Like, every adaptation of Wuthering Heights has had a white man play Heathcliff. However, in the modern day, where there are so many actors that you could have picked, it seems weird to not adapt that aspect, and it's the one aspect in every adaptation they have not done, despite the fact that when you hear that, and you know it's a period romance story, the racism aspect is part of it. And then it goes further. Apparently, the real romance story is between their children, because the two loved each other, but then were not mature enough to speak on it, and they try to push each other away, but their children from separate marriages end up falling in love, and their parents, of course, despise that. And well, I should say one of them despises it. There's another thing that happens, but when I heard that, I was like, why did you not adapt that story? Why was this not a flashback to what went down type of situation? Kind of like, you know how Little Women flashback from the present to the past?
Yeah, it was very brief, but yeah, it made sense within that context. If you wanted to do like a back and forth with this movie, but make it subtle, that from what you're saying.
Yeah, so I was very, very confused by the choices they made to not change it. From what I understand, Wuthering Heights is already a pretty hotly contested novel, I should say. Not a lot of people are like huge fans of the book. Some are huge fans and some are not. But really, when I hear this is a period melodrama all hinging on these two just not having an adult conversation. And that can be fun for some people. And if you're into romantic melodrama with just a splash of spiciness to it, you might enjoy this. I think it was worth seeing on the big screen just for some of the visuals alone. But hearing what the book could have been, I probably actually want to read the book because that actually does sound pretty interesting. But I am very surprised that this was the choices they made. And
Yes.
I'm very confused by the choices Emerald Fennell made because it did not make the story any more interesting with her changes. So I really wonder if Emerald Fennell, as a director, should try and direct something that she co-wrote or didn't write.
Yeah, it's almost kind of funny if you've seen the last movie Emerald Fennell that made, which was, I guess, more of a personal piece.
Saltburn.
Saltburn, yeah. Well, not Saltburn, but her other movie.
Promising Young Woman. That was her first film.
Her first film, yeah. It's kind of funny, like, you'd think, because from what little I know of the book, it seems more like it's a story of obsession as opposed to love. But then again, that's, like I said, from what little I know. And you think from her background and those kind of movies, with even Saltburn for that matter, like, you think she would actually kill it in that area of obsession, if that's what there's an aspect in that story.
Yeah, and they definitely play with that aspect in that story, but it's not really like... But it's not really touched upon. Like, they say briefly, like, maybe mention it, and then it's completely forgotten.
Oh, okay, that just...
But I will say, for me, just as a movie as it is, it's a 6 out of 10. But if I were a fan of the book, I have a feeling I would hate this.
If I had to rank my movie, yeah, I would also say mine is very much a 6 out of 10. But if you are a pure Dracula fan, you want like the book adaptation, then just like I said, rewatch Nosferatu or watch Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. There's better Dracula movies to watch if this kind of confused romantic genre is your thing.
So far, the best adaptation we've seen this year is Iron Lung.
Yes. That really says something.
But now we're going to get into the main meat of the episode. We are going to be discussing our top 10 favorite action movies of all time. Now, what does that mean? Well, this is not what we think critically are the best action movies ever made.
But rest assured, some of these movies are critically acclaimed.
Right, and they are some of them might be critically acclaimed, some of them might be well beloved, but this is just more so our 10 personal favorite recommended we put it on and watch action movies. I can tell you that as I started making this list, this was not easy.
This was not easy for me too, because I thought to myself, I've seen a lot of action movies, but then it was like, I've seen a lot of action movies, which means I should probably make some rules for myself here and there. And I think the rule you and I both agreed on most was one movie per franchise. So say one of us has one of the Die Hard movies on here, like Die Hard 3 or something like that. That's it. You're not going to see Die Hard the first movie afterwards.
We also made it clear for Marvel and DC, we took all of those properties and said they were basically two franchises. DC is one and Marvel is two. So that means you're not going to see like 5 MCU movies on here, though you could put them on there. And keep in mind, this is our personal list that we personally restricted ourselves. If you have a totally different list and don't want to restrict yourself, then we would love to hear your picks as well.
I also would like to hear that too, because it's always awesome to see even a movie that's, let's say, indie or underground that I haven't seen yet that just knocks my socks off, which, oh boy, here we go. Let's start the list.
So you want to start us off with your number 10?
Yeah, I think for me, number 10, this was actually a little bit, I had a bit of a back and forth with this one because I was like, well, objectively, this one's better, but I still really love this one. And I put Furious 7 as my number 10. For one, this movie's directed by one of my all-time favorite directors, James Wan, who created the Conjuring universe, and he did the Insidious movies, made the first Saw movie, really awesome in the horror department. So this was his first time in that departuring from that whole genre. And it took people off guard, to say the least. Me especially, because I was like, what? When I heard that he was doing Furious 7, I wasn't angry, but I was like, but he should be working on The Conjuring too. Like, that's what I really wanted to see from James Wan. But little did I know, like, James Wan is such a great director when he's like put in an environment where he gets along with everyone, because that's where I get from watching set photos and videos on production for a lot of his horror movies. And I'm guessing he brought that same energy with this movie, because I experienced nothing but a full, awesome adrenaline rush throughout each action sequence. And the story is very basic. There's a guy who's trying to kill the Toretto family. It's Jason Statham's character. It's very much like action, cheesy, cliche tropes that if that's not your cup of tea, I totally get it. But it just has so much fun. It takes itself seriously to the point where I can not think about what else is bothering me in the world. The same way these people don't need to be bothered that they do all these death-defying stunts, which, I mean, I know this is funny enough, the most critically acclaimed movie, and a few people I've talked to, they usually go like, really? Furious 7 is like the most, like, it's the highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes, or it was at the time. And I saw it back when it came out. I've seen it multiple times since, and every now and then I do get teary-eyed, needless to say, whenever we see a scene involving a certain someone who I won't go into too much spoilers, but if you know what happened before production went into this movie, then you know why this scene is very, very emotional for, I guess, most grown men watching this. So, yeah, Furious 7, my personal favorite. If you don't feel like sitting through, or I'm not saying watching the 6 other dumb movies, if I'm being honest, I get it. But I personally think if you want to get started, go all the way up to this. And if you're still interested, keep going. That's what I can say for the Fast and Furious movies. And that's what I have to say for Furious 7 altogether.
Yeah, I remember when it came out and how that movie really got to people. And that's really, really cool to hear. I've still not seen any of the Fast and the Furious movies.
They're interesting to watch because of how many changes go through in the first, I guess, up to 4, yeah. Because actually, no, even up to 5. They all change so dramatically. But when 5 comes, they all become just these insane action set piece movies.
That's good to know. So for my number 10, I actually ended up with only one animated film on this list.
Oh, wow.
And I was really sitting here thinking about it, and it was just such a fun movie. I remember as a kid, it was probably one of the first major action films and one of the first major kung fu films that I ever saw that I loved.
I think I have an idea what this is.
Yep, my number 10 is Kung Fu Panda.
That is quite a pick if you are going action and animation.
Well, and what I realized rewatching it is that it shares the same structure as like a Disney musical,
Yeah.
but every musical number is replaced with an action sequence.
Exactly.
Like the opening fight with his dream that Poe's dreaming of, that's his I Want song. That's who he wishes he could be. And it's this incredibly gorgeous hand-drawn animated sequence that just ends so sharply with perfect timing.
Yeah.
The Furious Five get introduced in this really cool training montage. And then, what else can I say about probably the best action sequence in the movie?
Oh, wait, would that be Tai Lung escaping from the prison?
Oh, yes.
That scene where he's bouncing off like the rocks or boulders and then he has to get undercover with the red arrows, that wide shot, that's like a shot that should be like framed in like any house if you love animation so much.
Yeah, Tai Lung's escape is truly
It is
magnificent.
amazing,
But what I love is every action sequence is an emotional beat and an emotional part of the story, and it keeps everything moving forward, kind of like what a good musical should do.
Exactly.
And you get Shifu and Poe's whole training montage, which is great, ending with a chopstick dumpling fight that I still think about to this day. And when it ends with him saying, "I'm not hungry," like, sorry, masterpiece. And then it's immediately followed up by the Fearsome Five taking on Tai Lung on the bridge. Furious Five.
And the banter's like, so I hear there's a new dragon warrior. Where might he be? How do you know you're not looking at her? Tigress by
the banter is
Angelina
great.
Jolie. That was,
Probably one of my favorite Angelina Jolie performances, if I'm being honest.
Oh, yeah.
And what I love is in that sequence, you see how good the Five are because they almost beat Tai Lung.
They almost beat them. There's a freaking mantis in there holding a bridge.
And he
y'all.
somehow also gets one of the coolest ending moves.
Exactly.
And it shows just how good these guys are. What I like is the movie doesn't bring them down or makes them weak. It shows these guys are masters for a reason.
But Tai Lung knows a little bit more than they do.
Right, and
Just
it shows you
enough.
why he's so terrifying. And then you get to probably one of the most emotional fight sequences of all time.
The master versus apprentice.
Yes, Shifu and Tai Lung's fight is so powerfully done.
Yes.
And it is some of my favorite visuals in the entire film. But then you get this final fight, and this could have not worked.
It really
because
couldn't have.
it goes into full-on slapstick comedy.
But
after
it's
this
earned it.
Yes, and it's both emotional, it's exciting, and that is a great way for Poe's arc to be completed.
It feels so fitting because like the movie had its funny moments and then it gets dramatic and it's like, yes, you would almost think it should end on a dramatic note, but not because this is a kid's movie, because this is how the character would approach the situation.
Right.
He's now more confident in himself because of the great little, the little message the movie has in terms of not being special, but in terms of a special ingredient. Let's put it that way.
Right. I would say critically, I do think Kung Fu Panda 2 is a better film.
I still need to see
But
the other ones, actually.
Kung Fu Panda is just this really smart film that
Brilliantly
really
smart.
tried to combine slapstick, goofy, Jack Black comedy with martial arts with an emotional story. And the reason I also have this at number 10 is I remember as a kid we got the movie from Redbox.
Yes.
And that morning I popped it in the DVD player and I watched it. As soon as it ended, I hit replay. I think that day I watched it because it's not a long movie. I think it's like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I probably watched it 8 or 9 times, and then for I think a month straight, I just kept watching it every day.
I remember back when this movie came out, and I'll keep in mind, I wasn't like an anti-Jack Black person, but even as like a preteen, I started to like catch on that Jack Black ain't perfect in everything. And so when the trailers for this movie came out, now keep in mind, like for a lot of animated movies, even to this day, a lot of animated movies mainly show the slapstick or the comedy for most of their movies.
Right.
And back then, even for a Jack Black movie, this could have been hit or miss, and the hit was so worth it.
It really is it's an impressive film. It's a great animated piece, and it's an amazing action film. Mm-hmm. I think my introduction to action, of course, was Star Wars, like many other kids.
Action, fantasy, whatever
Action,
you want to
fantasy.
call it, yeah.
I think for kids, this Kung Fu Panda, I still say, is a great way to get to see if they're into martial arts.
Yes.
and what these types of stories can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think going forward, Kung Fu Panda is kind of like your baseline template for what a good action movie is and what it can do.
Yeah.
Let's move on now to your number 9.
So my number 9, I had to have a Stallone movie on here, at least one. It is not Rocky, nor is it any of the Rambo movies. It is actually an underrated Stallone movie that I think is a lot smarter than people gave it credit for back then, but that was probably because the internet hadn't really been invented or taken full form quite yet. I say this because I personally believe Demolition Man is the most brilliantly hilarious Stallone film I've ever seen.
It's so fun.
It is such a fun okay, it is very macho, like Stallone machismo. Okay, let me start by like giving you the general premise. It's almost like he's almost like Captain America, except without the super soldier serum. So Stallone lives in the 90s in California, which is all in flames, which couldn't be more accurate to what was going on back then in California.
Yep.
And he's sent in to take out a villain played amazingly. Like, in my opinion, look, Blade is great. If you like Wesley Snipes and Blade, I understand, but watch him as Phoenix in Demolition Man. He chews up every bit of the scenery. And of course, this leads to a whole bunch of destruction and chaos, of which Stallone is responsible for. And so he gets put into cryogenic suspension for like 300 or so years or something like that. And then it's the future. Cops don't use firearms anymore. It's just simple, get down on the ground and put your hands behind your back. And people are mainly complicit with the law. And like, because so many things outside of just like firearms, like swearing is illegal, chocolate is illegal, unhealthy food is illegal in this. It's a very picky future. And the only restaurant in this future is Taco Bell also. And the way and this is even weirder. You wipe your ass with seashells in this future. I'm not sure I would like to live in, now that I'm saying it more out loud. But
the 3 seashells.
Yeah, the 3 seashells. Even actors to this day, like, they still don't know what was up with that. Anyway, Sandra Bullock is brought into the movie, and this is her best action film with Stallone. Like, Stallone is like on his own is fine, but for him and Bullock in this movie is just pure magic somehow. She is one of those nostalgic officers who yearns for the days of action. And so when Phoenix is inconveniently brought out of cryogenic suspension as well, next to Stallone, they bring him with Stallone, and Stallone has to fight Phoenix. And there is an interesting battle of what's right and wrong in terms of in a world where being tough and independent is seen as a toxic entity, but at the same time, in a world where everyone's come together and express their, what's the right word? When they express their discomforts to like an extreme level, like what we see on the internet, it's an interesting parallel this movie creates with its government. I don't want to get too much deeper than that because you really should see the movie on its own. It is so fun. It is so funny too with the acting. And its message is actually, well, it's not like a message that I think is going to stand the test of time and like make everyone rethink life differently. It does make you realize, wait, this actually was a whole lot more ahead of its time though.
Oh yeah.
This particular message of what happens when we go so far in the opposite direction in terms of change, we don't find that middle ground. That's probably the best way to describe the overall message behind the movie. So give this a look. I know Stallone and Bullock, it sounds weird, but it's magic, like I said.
The Demolition Man might have my favorite, funniest Stallone moment.
Yeah.
I think Oscar is still his funniest film. But him in Demolition Man, when he learns about the swearing law and he needs toilet paper, starts swearing to use the tickets.
So
and then the detail of like every time he does swear, there's somebody who's covering his ears, and then you hear the fine being printed. This is such a funny movie, and it's because the details in it are so good.
It's such a bizarre future. You have to witness it just to see for yourself.
My number 9 is a film that just whenever I think back to it, it just brings me so much joy of seeing it in theaters for the first time.
Yeah?
And that was Mission Impossible Fallout.
Oh, boy.
So I was not really into the Mission Impossible franchise. I had seen it, and I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. There's some cool sequences.
I think they're fine.
And then I was working at Flick's Brewhouse when Fallout came out.
Okay.
And I was delivering food to a theater, and I kept hearing the audience just laughing and cheering just in excitement over this film. Mm-hmm. And that Monday we got free tickets to it because it would be the weekend, and then you would get free tickets for the week.
Yeah.
And so that Monday I was off and I was like, hey, Mom, you want to go see Mission Impossible Fallout? She said, sure. And we were walked out of there like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You have possibly... Once again, the action in this film is insane, and it's all around this character of Ethan Hunt.
Yes.
And played by Tom Cruise, who many people have talked about the stunt work he does, but I think he doesn't get enough credit as an actor for what he does with the character of Ethan Hunt.
Okay.
And what I specifically love is the way that every sequence is tied emotionally into what's going on. And then he plays off so beautifully off every actor, including Vanessa Kirby, Simon Pegg, and Ving Rhames are great. And then, of course, Henry Cavill comes into this movie.
Yes.
And he is so charming, so likable. And then you have, at the time, when we all liked him, Alec Baldwin being Ethan Hunt's boss.
Oh, yes.
Judi Dench being Henry Cavill's boss.
Oh, that was perfect.
And then you get into one of the first major action sequences of the film, which is the skydiving, which is one of the most tense moments, and it's only followed up about 10 minutes later by the incredible bathroom fight scene.
Yes.
It is a magnificent piece. Then you get to see Vanessa Kirby go ham. You get to see this whole sequence of them trying to get the villain out and while trying not to kill any innocent civilians or policemen. Mm-hmm. And then you get into this stunning chase sequence. Like, of course, the famous Tom Cruise running, but man,
yes.
does it feel like the timer is ticking, only for it to end with him catching up and realizing why he cannot continue the chase. And then you get to the climax, the moment the film ends.
The helicopter
with
scene.
the helicopter sequence.
That was one that actually almost made my stomach drop.
It is so good. Every action sequence, once again, is tied into the emotional beats of the story. Mm-hmm. Every character feels multi-layered. The stakes feel so high and so personal at the same time. Like, it's just wonderful. And I figured out the way Chris McQuarrie approached the writing of this movie.
Yes.
He first talked to Tom Cruise about where he wanted the story to go. Like, what did Tom Cruise want to take Ethan Hunt? Where do they want to explore?
Tom Cruise is a producer on these movies. Yeah, It makes sense.
And he then went to the marketing team before he really figured out... He had an idea for the story, which is, of course, where Tom Cruise was interested.
Yeah.
He then went into the marketing department and said, okay, would you want to see in a trailer? How do you want to market this movie? And then he took every sequence they wanted and built the story around those sequences so they could shoot it in the trailer. And he did that for the last two films as well.
Interesting.
So McQuarrie purposefully worked with the studio to figure out, how can I create a story that I want to tell around the stuff that you guys want to market and sell? It worked because the film was a major success.
Yes, I remember hearing
it was
that.
also an incredibly emotional journey. And so he gave the audience this really satisfying story on top of this really amazing action film. It makes sense why Tom Cruise asked him to return to direct the other films. And McQuarrie it's just such a smart way to approach a film.
I think McQuarrie was already there on the film previous to that. But yeah.
I think Brad Bird directed, because the film before Fallout, I think, was Ghost Protocol.
No, it was actually Rogue Nation.
Oh, yeah, it was Rogue Nation.
That was McQuarrie, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, correction on that. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Yeah, no worries.
But McQuarrie's approach to Fallout after working on Rogue Nation was then this approach that's just so smart. Mm-hmm. And it's a testament to great filmmaking in that regard.
Yes.
Because once the studio knows he's making the film we want, he can do whatever he wants on that other side. And he creates one of the most emotional journeys. By the time the film ends, it's so good. And they literally get to the last bit without going into spoilers. It's not... The final frame is not a spoiler. It's just Tom Cruise smiling, and then it seems like the film goes completely white and then blanks out. Well, they were shooting on the film cameras, and the film stock ran out on that.
Oh.
So they used the film stock running out.
That's actually really cool.
As the final shot of the movie. As a final, we did it all.
That's actually really cool.
And once again, Henry Cavill's performance as the main villain is just incredible.
Yeah.
He is terrifying. He is intimidating. And he is a perfect antithesis to everything Ethan Hunt is. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Mission Impossible Fallout, probably one of the coolest action movies I've ever seen. It's so well done. Every time I think back to it, I just smile and get happy. This is only my number 9.
I have a film that actually goes very much like that. What you were talking about, how each action sequence builds out the story in such a brilliant manner. But we'll get to that in a moment.
Yep, we're getting in now to our number 8.
Number 8 is a movie I'm so glad I saw in theaters, because this is a movie that sadly did not do well at the box office, which quite a few of these movies I have on here didn't do well. Sadly, yeah. This is a movie that just made me really check out this director a whole lot more, and that movie is Edgar Wright's adaptation of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That's just such an awesome movie that not only carries a great soundtrack, but just carries a really good story in terms of just social awkwardness and dating, as well as fighting your own insecurities and your own inner demons in just a brilliantly over the top and cartoonish manner in this world that's very much realistic like our own. But the thing Edgar Wright does well was he adds charm to his characters, almost like you would see with a director like Steven Spielberg or even Wes Anderson. And then he takes like this over the top concept from this story and just applies it to the real world, but it doesn't even feel like it's unnatural. It feels so authentic, and it really hooks you regardless of whether or not you think the style is your thing. It's different than what a lot of other action movies were doing at the time, which was the shaky cam thing. This was a movie that was taking off of animes and mangas and like showing all the freeze frames and all that with the punching. And he was even blending other cultures. Like we have a song like something, not song, we have a music sequence like something out of a Bollywood movie at one point, because this is a movie, without going too much into the plot, this is a movie about Scott Pilgrim, who is living a very awkward life, dating girls he probably shouldn't be dating at certain ages, which is one thing I actually give the directors, not the director's cut, the theatrical cut credit for. They didn't have him go with the teenager, but I'll leave that to everyone else's opinion. And then he meets another girl named Ramona, who is more interesting than the current girl he's dating. And in pursuit of her, he learns that he has to fight her 7 evil exes. And each action sequence means you get 7 action sequences of just stylistic action and just really great music. Like there's even one that's a battle of the band sequence, like something out of Guitar Hero, and it still works well as an action sequence. You even get an action moment with Chris Evans on a skateboard. Chris Evans doing his Johnny Storm impression in this, but he's likable. And then there's also Brie Larson at one point. Like so many great talents hidden in the background too, which is so brilliant about this movie. I know, like I said, this movie didn't do well at the box office, but it has grown such a huge following, and I can't recommend it enough. And I don't want to spoil too much. It is so stylish, and it's so authentic with its ideas and its tone, which is much more than I can say for a lot of other action movies that just want the stoic hero saving the day. This is the awkward dude getting the girl in a very awesome stylistic manner.
I will add to that movie. I'll add to Scott Pilgrim later on.
Oh, okay.
So hold on. I will talk about it, just not quite yet.
Okay.
It is exciting because but getting into my number 8, it's a film that I know that people have had opinions about. And honestly, I acknowledge the flaws. It still will never make me hate the films. I still love them, and especially this first one with The Matrix.
Oh, that was an honorable mention, which we'll talk about later. But
right,
yeah,
that'll be right before our number 1. We'll do our honorable mentions.
Yeah.
But The Matrix, it has a pretty obvious story once you hear what's going, because
it's a chosen one story.
It's a chosen one story.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is the use of philosophy to combine it, the world they create around it,
the technology that was used not only to make the movie but to show the world itself. It was a very technologically and story groundbreaking movie of sorts back in the day.
What's also great about it, and I will die on this hill, it has one of the greatest cinematic villains with Agent Smith, played by Hugo Weaving.
I love Agent Smith too. I don't know if I'd say he's the greatest cinematic villain of all time, but
I say he's one of the greatest.
Okay.
Not the greatest, but one of them.
Okay, I can definitely see that. Yeah.
What I love about this film is, once again, we're talking about how the action sequences all build to one another. The action sequences in this film are pretty good for the most part, but you feel like you have a really great opening sequence, and then you have some, I don't want to say standard, you have pretty quick and pretty quick stuff that comes along, and more so they become chase sequences for a good majority of
Yes.
them. And then you get to the finale to save Morbius.
Which
And
brings,
then
yeah.
the film unleashes itself
You've
into
got,
one of the greatest shootouts of cinematic history.
oh my God,
One
yeah.
of the great escapes. And then it leads to probably one of the best final battles between the hero and the villain in the movie.
it is, you've got a whole sequence where they're in guns blazing to some awesome 90s techno music. And then you've got a whole sequence where there's a helicopter. There's a helicopter getting someone out of a window. You got bullets being dodged. And then you've got an action sequence that's set in a subway that looks like something almost out of a Western.
And it combines Western and Kung Fu films essentially together.
Yeah, because
and
the Wachowskis, like, look, they didn't necessarily make a superhero movie. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah,
but
you're good.
They didn't necessarily make a comic book movie or anything, but they were very much influenced by manga and comics or what was being read at the time. And I'd have to argue this movie probably influenced a lot of what was going on in Scott Pilgrim and a lot of other movies too.
Oh, 1,000,000%. And what I love about this film is it takes everything with its philosophy is actually they go through all these philosophical natures because it makes sense for each character. And essentially you could almost see this movie like it's a morality play with each person representing a different belief or faith.
Yes.
And all of it confronting a nihilistic evil that is confronting them. And it's such a fascinating film to talk about. Now, I will admit, I like Matrix 2 and 3. I will even argue I don't even think the best action sequence in the franchise is in this movie.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It's such a well-made, beautifully done film. And I acknowledge there are definitely flaws with the movie.
There's flaws with some of the acting here and there.
Right. Keanu Reeves is fine in this film. He does a good job, but this was before he really, I think as he's gotten older, he's really found himself as an actor.
Oh, for sure.
And it also has to do with some of the direction he was given. But I really think for Neo, it really works because it's a man waking up and finding himself. And I believe him and Carrie Ann Moss are in love, full stop.
Oh, yeah. At least there was your love story in the action movie set list.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, The Matrix, I still love it. I love watching it. It's got one of my favorite final fights, one of my favorite villains. Overall, it's just a cool movie with some really cool ideas it presents.
If you grew up in that era where there was a lot of black trench coats and leather all in a lot of the action movies that were coming out, case in point, The Crow, Blade, this movie, this is probably the best out of all those kind of like tropes in movies.
I don't know, critically, I think Blade might be slightly better, but The Matrix is still awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So going into our number 7s.
Number 7. So for me, this is the first Marvel movie on my list, and only, of course, The Winter Soldier. What a movie to have come out in such a time. Like, I remember that was 2014 when that came out, so I was 18 at that time, and this was when Marvel was really starting to really skyrocket in terms of quality and what they were releasing, regardless of what we think of some movies. Like, I personally didn't like Thor: The Dark World, which was the movie before this. And that was actually at that point where I almost thought, wait, is Marvel doomed? Are we not going to get a good Avengers 2 for a split second? And not that that's like the worst movie I've ever seen, Thor: The Dark World. It's just I have my thoughts. Anyway, moving forward, we get Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and it elevates the whole story and universe of within the MCU to such an amazing degree. Like, you think this is a Captain America story, it's going to be more about America and the fallouts of what's been going on, which at a certain point it is, but then it becomes more global at near the end, which I won't get into too much spoilers with. Let's start with the basic premise. Steve Rogers, Captain America, is adapting to the normal modern society. And, in any other movie, this is something why I thought the writing was pretty good, this was when Marvel, of course, Marvel's known for their humor and quippy dialogue. This is the kind of quippy dialogue that was smart, because in any other movie, you would hear a character who grew up in another era lament about how it was so much better back then. Captain America here, when he's asked, well, so anything you miss from the 40s? Or anything you like about the modern society? And he says, well, I mean, food's definitely better than it was back then, and our beds are more comfy. Oh, and the internet's so much help on there. So it feels like he's adapting well enough, and he's still like talking and making friends along the way. But then he learns the organization Shields that he's been a part of and keeping the world safe is starting up something pretty shady. And that shadiness extends to not ancient, but an old evil from when he was fighting in World War II, which I will not go any further because it is a really awesome, gripping story of espionage. But let me actually add one more thing. There's also the Winter Soldier who is sent in to kill Captain America. And he gives us the best action sequences. And a villain is doing something great when you hear like a music's tune that indicates he's coming. Like, a movie really has you scared for someone who's coming after the main character. And I won't spoil any reveals about the Winter Soldier unless you're one of those 10 people who haven't watched any of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies yet. But overall, I guess what put this movie on my list was it was near my senior year when I was watching this, and that was when a lot of great movies were coming out for that summer. And I don't know if this was a summer or if it was like a late spring movie, but definitely one of those feel-good movies I had, especially from Marvel, and great character development from Steve Rogers, and of course Black Widow. She becomes more mysterious and interesting as the movie progresses, and then we get the introduction to Sam Wilson's Falcon, who is a great levity of side character, not comedy, but just overall presence. Anthony Mackie. He's grown so much as an actor since, but it's kind of amazing what he was given back then, and he just brought so much with what was in the script.
Right.
It's just Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It's the best Captain America movie out of all of them. There you go.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to Winter Soldier, because I agree it's probably the best Captain America movie, was I liked the first one quite a bit. Joe Johnston did a good job with it and had to combine multiple genres very successfully together. Mm-hmm. But the second one, when Kevin Feige brought in the Russo brothers, he pitched them doing Captain America, and they said, well, Cap's not our favorite character.
He's a square. That's how they described him.
They said he's kind of a square. We don't know really what to do. And Kevin Feige said, well, what if you pitched me a movie that made Captain America your favorite character?
There you go.
And my goodness, did they? Because I remember around this time, everyone was like saying, oh, Iron Man's my favorite or Hulk is my favorite. No one was really saying Cap was their favorite.
No, not
After
really.
this movie, so many people to this day
say and Iron Man were literally neck and neck, which is also why we got Civil War to a certain capacity. Yeah.
To this day, so many people say that Captain America is their favorite.
Yeah.
And what I also love, and you pointed out how he adapts very well into modern life.
Yes.
He still keeps that good old boy energy from his days in the army of like, I am a superhero, I am a positive role model.
Oh, yeah.
And yet he keeps that up, but is okay with embracing change in who he is. So Cap himself, while he is challenged in this entire film, mm-hmm. my goodness, does he choose to stay true to who he is and who he chooses to be.
And it's very clear early on, because when Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, reveals their little shady deal, he immediately knows right then and there. I won't say again what this deal is, but when he sees what's going on, he says, this isn't freedom. This is fear. Like, he knows right then and there. And more people keep testing him, but like you said, he stays true to himself, but he adapts when necessary. Mm-hmm. It's just such a great story about staying true to your roots, but also understanding when things need to go, when things in a certain path need to change. It's so great. And of course, that post-credit scene, which we won't discuss here, but man, did that get us excited for Age of Ultron.
So getting into my number 7, it's going to go pretty quick because this one was Scott Pilgrim versus the World. And all I'm going to add to this is that because you pretty much nailed it. It's brilliant film with incredible sequences that are all to it. The two things I'll add is, one, Scott Pilgrim is an awful person.
Oh, yeah.
He is. And what I like is that they intentionally cast Michael Cera because he is like kind of the archetypal nerdy guy.
Yes.
So
either him or at the time even Jesse Eisenberg.
Right. So this movie is basically holding up a mirror to the nerds in the audience that of course would watch this and do watch it to this day and say, hey, you may not exactly be the best guy, just not because of if you do or don't have muscles, not because you do this, but because of how you act and how you treat people.
Exactly.
And my goodness, is that such a smart way. The second way, remember I was talking about how it's basically musical archetypes with action movies?
Oh, yes.
I got that from Scott Pilgrim, because Edgar
Oh, yeah.
Wright said he did the structure of a musical for each action sequence.
Totally doesn't surprise me, but he blended so many great styles and tones and in such a brilliant manner.
Please, Edgar Wright, direct a musical at some point. I am begging you.
Oh, man.
But let's get into our number 6.
My number 6 will be my Tom Cruise movie, which is Edge of Tomorrow, which is the sci-fi Groundhog Day, a movie that when it came out, I heard it was like, it got some decent enough reviews, but it didn't do well at the box office, as per usual, with some stuff on my list. And then I finally bought the movie when it came on Blu-ray because enough of my friends were telling me that it was really, really good. And I was still in that phase of my life where I was like, but Tom Cruise is just an action person. Is just a glorified stuntman, blah, blah, blah. Then I see this movie. This is Tom Cruise's character. I'm blanking on his specific position, but he is a deputy a deputy of sorts, and he's forced into the U.S. Army to fight the big war on what is essentially a death wish for these people. They're on the beach, like something out of Normandy, and they're attacking these aliens. And Cruise is inexperienced, and while he is given the appropriate equipment, he injures himself fighting one of the aliens, and their blood gets on his face, and he relives the same day over and over. And each day is him essentially improving and getting stronger, and in turn more interesting because he knows a little bit more about battle strategy. He knows more about the aliens. It is such a great character growth for someone who has to, well, like I said, relive the same day over and over. And just the whole sci-fi setup, it reminds me, and it might remind some audiences, it may come off like a video game, which the author of the book this movie is based off of. Yes, he said that this was based off restarting a level in every video game and trying to overcome the challenges that you already know, which is such a brilliant concept for a movie. Like, it's almost like making a video game movie without making a video game movie. And just the technology they give us and the action and all the different ways he dies, it builds and builds off one another, making him a stronger man to a point where he then goes on a mission on his own without any of the people who support him. And then he gets a bigger secret, and then things begin to change. And that's where I won't go into any further spoilers. So if you heard me already say I didn't really think too much for Tom Cruise, this is the movie that changed me a little bit more to him as an actor. Definitely check this movie out because unfortunately, like I said, it didn't get a lot of views back when it came out in theaters.
Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow is amazing. It's great. What I also love is Emily Blunt's character in that movie is
Emily
amazing.
Blunt, yeah.
And what I love is her trainer says that anytime that like an actress comes in for training, they're like, okay, what kind of body do you want? She's like, can you make me look like Emily Blunt in Edge of Tomorrow? And it's fair. I also love hearing the stories that John Krasinski was training for a film at the time as well.
Yeah.
So at first they were training together, and then he had to separate them because they were the funniest people in the room, and they could not finish training. They would just all be laughing too hard.
Oh my goodness.
For my number 6, this was a handicap you put on for yourself, but once I thought of this movie, I couldn't handicap myself. I couldn't bring myself to do it because we're going into Star Wars.
I said no Star Wars because I say that more as fantasy, but I can't say I don't blame him for having it on here. Which one, though?
It's Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, man. You had to put the best one out of the prequels on here. Of course you did.
It's the best action movie out of all the prequels. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Rogue One has the best action sequence in all of Star Wars in the final fight. But Revenge of the Sith
is just...
From the very beginning, you get this amazing space battle.
Which was an hour long in the original script.
Followed by an infiltration of the ship.
Yeah.
Followed by our first lightsaber duel, which hints towards Anakin's fall. And then
you get a ship crashing down into a city.
Right.
That's split in half.
That is the first 25 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
And you know you're in for a wild ride. But then every sequence is gorgeous. The Order 66 sequence might be one of the saddest sequences ever put. The fight, I actually really like the fight between Palpatine and Mace Windu.
And
it's
Anakin's
really
sudden
neat.
turn to the dark side, and then you saying, no, no, no. Us kids watching this in the theater, mind you, because we grew up with the prequels, so we were the audience. So
I was not allowed to see this movie in theaters.
I saw it only
once. My dad thought it was like, he's going to have to wait a bit before seeing that. And then
we rectified that, though. We had you watch it last year. Yeah.
I saw it twice, actually.
Oh, you saw it twice?
In a row. Because my
Nice.
sister came into town and she couldn't see it with us that night. night.
That's
Why
right, I
that's why you got the
remember.
ticket for that first night.
I
And then
remember
we saw it the
now.
second night. So I saw it twice.
There you go.
But when but then you get to what is possibly one of the coolest fight scenes in any movie, which is the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yes, the most emotional, poignant core of this movie.
And what I love is that when George Lucas was working on it, he said he wanted to make the action sequence that was the longest sword fight in film history at the time.
Oh my goodness.
And my goodness, did he run with it. But here's another fun fact. This is when he was working on the movie, he didn't have a lot of time to always have sole focus on each sequence. He would approve of each one.
Yes.
But he needed help. So some directors came in and helped, and the entirety of the sequence was storyboarded and advised by Steven Spielberg.
Oh my goodness.
So now Spielberg does not want to take credit for it because it is Lucas. Lucas had to approve it. Lucas had to work with it to make sure it works. Spielberg was working within the confines of his vision and story.
Gotcha.
But this is the closest we're ever getting to Steven Spielberg making a Star Wars movie.
And man, does it show.
It is just one of the coolest action sequences ever put to film. And it also makes story sense. It makes character sense. And when it ends, it can't end any other way.
This is, and without getting too much into spoilers for those who still haven't seen this movie, this is like probably the first and biggest blockbuster. Maybe not first, but it is definitely the number one blockbuster in my mind that I think of, where it's like, that's the one time I've seen a movie in theaters where the villains win.
Yeah.
I think the only other close second would probably be Infinity War, but yeah, Revenge of the Sith, it's hard to top that for me in terms of like mainstream blockbusters. So yeah, definitely see this if you're starting your Star Wars journey.
Yeah, it is a movie that its action is incredible, but it makes
Yes.
so much story sense. And by the time it ends, you're just kind of sitting there blown away that this was even made.
Oh, if you think that you're blown away that the movie itself was even made, like find a video on YouTube by this YouTuber named Gatsby, I believe. He does a video where that breaks apart the original scripts for the prequel trilogy, and the original script for episode 3 was insane. But I think my favorite line from the original script, Obi-Wan, for those who, we're kind of not, it's not so much spoiler, it's something that was cut out. The character Obi-Wan goes up against the villain General Grievous, and Grievous says to Obi-Wan, "I've been trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku." To which, in the original film, Obi-Wan doesn't say anything, he just draws his lightsaber. But in the original script, Obi-Wan would have drawn his lightsaber, and he said, "Don't forget, I trained the Jedi who killed Dooku." Which is like, I wish they left that in the original movie, or in this movie, but either way, yeah.
What I think is
Fun facts there.
another fun fact to add was that Lucas really did go ham in pre-production on what the fight sequences were going to look like.
Oh, yeah.
He had this idea that Anakin was going to activate his lightsaber in someone's neck during a fight. And he was so excited about it, so they did it and trained it, and they showed it to Lucas, and when he saw it, he went, "Oh, dear." He realized maybe we were going a little too far.
Just a little.
And he said and they said that they cut out a lot of stuff in pre-production that was like, that's a little violent, that's a little much, which it is something that I think he remembered. Wait, I kind of am thinking of the kids in mind.
Yeah, I am making this for 12-year-olds.
Yeah, and I agree that like when you hear some of the stuff, it's like, yeah, I think 12-year-olds might have been like, that
happens.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I like to see that that's some restraint, but still, without going to spoilers, a guy gets set on fire in this movie, and somehow that one made it past.
That was actually the moment where my mom actually said, "PG-13 my ass." Like, no joke.
All right, we are now in the top 5.
So,
Start us off with your number 5.
number 5 is a movie I sadly didn't see in theaters, but I saw all of its sequels afterwards. And this is Keanu Reeves' big comeback with John Wick. This was the movie that made us realize, but made us remember, no, Keanu Reeves can still do action. He can still be stoic and cool. You just need to give him the right character, the right environment, and on top of that, give him some awesome action sequences just to keep everything consistent and within the story. And boy, this is a movie, without going up into too much details, it's a movie about a man who is really good at what he does in the assassin business, and then he quits he had to do something insane that they don't really talk too much about, which adds all the more to the mystery of how good he is. And then he is living a normal life with his wife until his wife passes away and she leaves him a dog. And then one day, some Russian dickheads break into his house, they steal his car, and on top of that, they murder his dog. And the rest of the movie is John Wick going out finding these guys who are part of this organization he used to work for, claiming revenge for the murder of his puppy, Daisy. Very, very simple setup, almost like Taken, I guess, if the main character's significant other didn't make it. But what they do for John Wick and like the age he is, as for Keanu Reeves, why he is the way he is, how stoic, because he's seen a lot of violence, he's had to do a lot of killing, and he's great at what he does. And speaking of which, Reeves himself is great at what he does in terms of the action in this movie. And it's not just the hand-to-hand combat, it's even the gunplay, the gung fu, as the subgenre has now been called, where he's hitting someone while holding a gun and then he hits them. All the training and all the stunt choreography is just phenomenal in an era. Once again, we were still in the era of shaky cam. We still had Michael Bay's Transformers at this time. We still had maybe a third Taken movie on the horizon at some point. So shaky cam and quick jumps were everywhere, but this movie keeps it straight on the action, on what you can see from the characters' movements. You get also probably the coolest world building to a criminal organization, or assassin organization, excuse me, an underground assassin organization that lives within plain sight. Like just seeing the money and what it means, not as just as money, but as like a symbol for something else. It just raises. It's almost like reading a comic for the first time, like to like an indie comic, and you're just like, wait, what does this mean? You want to just keep reading, keep turning the page. This is not based off of a comic, by the way, but man, this is almost like another Matrix for him. Like, because the Matrix had some comic influences, this had some more like indie, like noir comic influences, with a little bit of a modern edge to it, with the assassin organization. And it's storytelling at its storytelling at its finest with John Wick. And moving forward, all the movies just get better. But it all started with the first John Wick. So definitely check this one out. He did at my behest. So y'all definitely should as well.
Yeah, I've seen the first three, and yeah, that first film is just pretty incredible. The world building was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite sequence in the movie, I should say, my favorite scene in the movie is not an action sequence, as great as the action is.
Oh, yeah.
It's the moment we could do the intercutting of John Leguizamo's dealership character, and him not even seeing John Wick, and it intercuts with the conversation he had with the Russian kid.
Yes.
And then it ends with the dad calling him and says, "I heard you struck my son."
And like I was like, "Yes, sir, I did."
Because the car he stole from was John Wick. Oh.
And he killed his dog. Oh. And he hangs up the phone.
And he's just like, "My idiot of a son."
Yeah. This is like Taken in reverse. It was like, you just stole from a dangerous guy that we know is dangerous. Taken, the guys didn't know how dangerous the other guy was, which Keanu Reeves at this point is like anti-Steven Seagal. Like a guy
He's
who
infinitely charming, likable, does such great work.
and does his own stunts. Like, not that makes him respectable, but
Right.
like on top of that, what Steven Seagal does is he also likes to do the I'm perfect and great at what I do, but he likes to be unstoppable. Like he has to do a fight scene in a chair because he's too lazy to stand. He has to stand in one place or get the stuntman to do a certain drop kick he's too old to do anymore, too heavy at this point too. Keanu Reeves is more, I guess the best way to put it is, whereas in a Steven Seagal movie, he won't take any damage. He'll just like fight and wave his hands around. John Wick, he's the best at what he does, but he takes damage.
Oh, yeah, he does.
takes hits. You feel every hit that he's given, and it's like, man, is he old enough to like recover from that? And at a certain point, he's like, I just need a little scotch. Like that awesome, not awesome old man, but that awesome former retired assassin energy, which is Keanu Reeves. He brings it. And Willem Dafoe has an amazing performance in this movie, by the way, as well as a bunch of other actors, some that we also lost, like Lance Reddick, who plays a really iconic concierge. Just watch John Wick.
So good. Yeah, John Wick, watch it. It's brilliant.
And Ballerina. Ballerina was great too.
So now getting into my number 5, I was thinking about this. This is technically an action movie, but it's very sparse. It's the way that they use it.
Oh, please tell
That's
me.
brilliant. And that is Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller's Sin City.
Oh boy, another.
Talk about one of the most stylized movies ever, because they were doing a direct adaptation of the comic.
Almost shot for shot, practically, even color and color.
And sometimes I would even say critically to a fault because of the use of the narration and not really letting the visuals speak for themselves most of the time.
It feels like.
But-
oh, yeah, keep going. I'm sorry.
Oh, of course. But that's neither here nor there. Talking about how they use the action in this movie.
Oh, man.
It is like a slow, dreading buildup. You know it is coming, and when it happens, it's quick and it's violent and it's shocking. And then you see the fallout and aftermath of that. And it's the way that the movie uses action and color is in brilliant way. I also love is that this is Robert Rodriguez fully embracing that this is a green screen film.
Yes.
And he was right. You could not have made this film in live action, at least in the style, well, in a traditional live action style, because of the way the style is.
The only movie that comes somewhat close, and this was literally, and to be fair, also this was 2 years after this had came out, was Zack Snyder's 300. But even
Right.
then, they were using color of like a different capacity and sets.
Right.
This was cheap, like full on.
Oh yeah, and some of the actors never even met one another.
Yeah.
There's a whole amazing fight sequence between Mickey Rourke and Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
And they never met. This
Yeah.
was them and their stuntmen and intercutted. First of all, Robert Rodriguez edited this film.
Oh, man,
I
yeah.
think this might be some of his best editing he ever did. And the way that the green screen is used, some of the actors never met one another. Like Bruce Willis never actually met Jessica Alba. And yet their chemistry in this movie is undeniably amazing, which is a testament to Rodriguez as a director and the fact that you fully believe they are there together on set.
Well, it's the chemistry works is because you have to direct them to understand the style and the the style of what's being given in this specific story, which without going into too much detail, because Sin City can't really be described as like a narrative structured plot. It's a very stylized, over the top crime noir of sorts. And it's just there almost like a series of vignettes with that's showing off a lot of violence because of Frank Miller, who is known for showing a lot of that in his comics. In fact, he also did the comic for 300. So
Right.
This is the kind of movie that lends itself to that over the top exploitation, low budget indie film vibe. But with the actors and the script, you just got to give them the right direction and let them understand what the tone and style is.
It was also a movie that Robert Rodriguez quietly left the DGA over for a time because they said that Frank Miller is directing and co-directors can't have co-directors. They cannot be a duo. So he said, okay, I quietly leave the DGA so Frank Miller can get the credit for being a director. And if you look at the behind the scenes, Miller was there every day on set directing and positioning actors. Like he was very much working on this film.
Yeah.
And also Quentin Tarantino
He makes
guest
a guest
directed a
directs,
scene.
yeah.
And that scene is probably one of the coolest in the movie. I'm not going to dare spoil it.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And it was also Tarantino's only time working on digital, and when he was asked about it, all he has said of this movie is mission accomplished. So I'm very curious what that means for him. But it is such a cool film, and when you see what their size of their set was, it shows you just how economical of a filmmaker Robert Rodriguez is. But it
Yes.
is used to such great effect. Sometimes it isn't, but for this movie, it is some of his best work. And for me, the way that the action is used, even when it goes by quickly, it feels visceral, it feels real, it moves the story forward. Every bit of action in this film feels earned.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it is, and it sticks out with you because of how well done the story is.
It is
So
brutal.
yeah,
It is
Sin City is
violent.
in my my fifth favorite action film of all time.
That feels almost fitting, especially with mine at John Wick, because John Wick almost felt like it was an extension from Sin City in terms of setting up tone and like environment, but there was world building there. Anywho,
I also need to add is that Sin City is neither a DC or Marvel property. It is Dark Horse.
Dark
so
Horse, yeah.
keep that in mind.
Same with Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim is like a complete indie comic altogether. It's a manga, actually, if I'm correct, right?
I don't think it's a manga, but it is indie.
Okay, it is. Okay. Either way, we kept the comic book stuff indie, y'all. Give
All
us a
right,
break.
on to number 4.
Number 4 was a movie. Once again, this movie did not do well at the box office. It lost to Pitch Perfect 2 of all movies.
That's still a funny movie. Pitch Perfect 2 is hilarious.
This movie was very much another movie that just elevated the action to such a degree with amazing practicals. But there is CG, but however, the bulk is all on set, all within the environment. The action is, it takes a break at just the right moments. This is George Miller's Mad Max Fury Road. This was such an adrenaline rush at the beginning for this movie because it gives us a little brief fight car chase with Max played by Tom Hardy. And then we transition from Max's capture to Charlize Theron's Furiosa, who is very much the main character of this movie, even though it's called Mad Max. And we get a story about Furiosa and Max, who they get intertwined within the story, just escorting 5 young women to a safer land from the tyrannical ruler who has impregnated them, or one of them at least. This is just a movie with such a simple premise, but by God, does it commit to its action? Does it commit to like showing off all the set pieces in such a grand manner? Because this is a world, without going into too much detail, this is a world where we live in sand dunes. The only things that are running are old-fashioned cars. You're not going to see any Teslas in this universe. And we also have crazy warlords who wear a mask like something out of the video game Twisted Metal, and he has control of the water. And in the meantime, he also has control of the fuel and the bullets, the ammunition, this crazy wasteland. And he has this army of war boys with all these crazy vehicles topped upon one another. All the kind of stuff, like almost as a little boy, I wish I had seen earlier, but I finally got to see it as an adult 20 years into my life. And it's just not... The action takes a break, The action, it feels nonstop at first, but it does take a break because each action sequence serves to drive each act in the story forward. The first action sequence helps drive or helps us transition into the second act. The second act's action scene helps establish more and more of the stakes of what this mission means for these people. And the third act establishes why this mission needs to succeed for these people as well. And the mission changes at a certain point. Mm-hmm. I won't say what this mission is in full detail, but watch this movie just so you can keep asking, how did they do that? Because I was doing that practically the entire time with all these crazy stunts, with all these vehicles. We got semi-trucks, we got race cars, traveling in the desert. We got people throwing explosive spears onto other cars, just nonstop adrenaline and just simple storytelling. This movie got nominated for several Oscars for a reason.
It won 6 Academy Awards.
One of the awards it was even nominated for was Best Director in Picture. Lost to The Revenant, but there's a movie to lose to, man.
Yeah, that's another film that you could technically argue is an action film.
Yeah.
So it seems the Academy just really loved action that year.
It might have been. I think
arguably this year you could argue there's a couple films where you're like, you could argue they're kind of leaning towards it. But yeah, I mean, Mad Max Fury Road, not much more I can add. It's one of the coolest, best done action films of all time. It pretty much takes cues from silent films.
Yes.
And then it's like an elevation of that form. And yeah, by the time it's done, you're like, that was one of the coolest movies I think I've ever seen.
So amazing. Give it a watch, y'all.
All right, my number 4. I know people are going to be like, seriously?
Oh.
Yep, it's one of my favorites, and I'm going to stay with it. It's Superman 2025.
Interesting choice.
James Gunn's Superman is... Every sequence of this film I remember.
Yeah.
From the first sequence of him facing the Hammer of Baravia.
Yeah.
Then you get into the other fights with the kaiju.
And then meeting the Justice Gang along the way.
Meeting the Justice Gang is incredible. Then you have Mr. Terrific's own amazing sequence.
Yes.
Then you have his escape of the interdimensional prison. And finally, the final save the city bit, along with the fight between the Engineer and the Hammer of Baravia.
Ultraman, actually.
And technically, it turns out to be Ultraman.
Yeah, excuse us. Spoiler.
But overall, it's just a film that is just symbolically so hopeful. Mm-hmm. It is a film that embraces that things can get hard, but man, we're going to fight to keep it good.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's if you love the Guardians of the Galaxy films, you know what James Gunn can do with action.
Oh, yeah.
And once you see what he does with Superman, it just feels like a glove fitting a hand so perfectly. And I have talked about this movie way too much, so I'm not going to run with it too much. All I will say is, yeah, Superman makes me happy. Every action sequence is brilliant. I cannot wait for Man of Tomorrow.
I can't wait either, and there's not much more I can add. You pretty much said it all. I guess we move on to number 3.
Number 3,
So
take us into the top 3.
So I've had a Stallone movie on here. I've had a Marvel movie, a Keanu Reeves movie, a Tom Cruise movie. I need to have an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie on here somewhere. How about Predator?
Ooh.
Predator, one of the coolest, and a movie you feel like they really sweated their ass off to make, because for one, this movie was not easy to make at all. This is a movie, the plot or the premise of this is these U.S. Marines are sent to to Guatemala to investigate a drug cartel of sorts, and then all of a sudden they're being hunted by an alien who is technologically advanced. And while there's only one alien, and there's like 7 or 8 of these men, this thing has, again, a technological advantage. It kills them along the way as its prey. So, and it also, like, it can turn invisible. It's got a shoulder cannon. It sees the heat in our body. And again, this movie was made in the jungles of Guatemala. First off, if you've never been to any country in, say, Central America, like over the summer, it's not that the weather's unpleasant, but it is not like going down to Hawaii to enjoy a trip at the beach. This is a really, really hot environment in the Amazon jungle. So that was already a bit of a hassle for them to get over. And on top of that, they also had to redesign the Predator itself. I don't know if you know this, but the Predator was originally going to be played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, of all people.
Whoa.
And the idea was to have the Predator, like, not use weapons at the time. It was going to be just invisible and camouflage, but it would use its fighting skills to take off these men. Unfortunately, the studio took a look at what the creature design looked like, and they said, everyone's going to laugh. If you haven't seen it, definitely give it a look. But yes, this was not an ideal design. So the costume designer and the creature design people had to go back to the drawing board, start from the ground up. And this time they got more inspiration from mythological Jamaican culture here and there, hence the dreads you see on this creature. And they decided to give it technology to at least make the kills more graphic. And the costume designer, one of the designers was on a plane with, of all people, he was on a plane ride with James Cameron. And he saw a picture of one of the concept designs for the Predator. And James Cameron was the one who said, you know, it'd be really cool if he had mandibles or like little pinchers on his face, like something like that. That would make him scary. So James Cameron is, in a way, part of the reason why the Predator is improved so much in the way that it has.
But I'm taking a look at that Predator design that they originally had. I am so glad they changed it.
Yeah, exactly. But on top of all that, like I said earlier, the jungles of Guatemala are super hot, and the Predator's vision is mainly based on infrared. So it's 1987. You're filming in the summer in Guatemala. You're using an infrared camera. There's no computer CG technology yet. How do you film infrared in a jungle that's going to be all red and yellow all over the place? It wasn't easy. But through all the trials and errors and all the sweat that they had to bust, the movie is still just pure 80s machismo action. Not toxic, just pure 80s like action men holding their guns, fighting for this creature that is terrifying and cool at the same time. Like I think I was 15, maybe 14 when I saw this movie, the right age. And just seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger go up against this creature that was not larger than life, but was stronger than him in the finale, which, like I said earlier, this is a movie that tested people's strength and abilities along the way, not just in the movie, but in the production as well. Arnold is the last character standing, and if he lived in the jungle for like a little while to prepare those traps that he did in the movie, and he did that behind the scenes of production, I believe it. All those men really, really pull their weight. Well, they're really strong men. And all the other people in the movie too. Like, we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, Shane Black is in this movie too.
Wow.
He's one of the characters who carries a Sergeant Rock comic, which is like, yeah, if Shane Black made a Sergeant Rock movie, that'd be cool. But Predator is it's one of those 80s classics action movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't need to say more. Watch the trailer, or just watch the movie. It is John McTiernan's best movie, the director of this movie. This is the same man who directed Die Hard, by the way, which is why I don't have it on this list. So there you go.
Interesting. Yeah, I have not seen Predator yet, so I know that will change. But yeah, I will definitely have to check it out.
Oh, yeah.
My number 3, I had to pick my favorite director of all time.
Here we go.
Working with Tom Cruise shortly after he made the first 2 Mission Impossible films.
First 2?
Or for one of the first, because this came out after one of them.
We're talking about John Woo?
No.
Oh, Brian De Palma?
Nope, this is Steven Spielberg.
Oh, Steven Spielberg, okay.
Spielberg made what I think is one of the smartest action movies of all time and scarily becoming more relevant nowadays.
Oh, yeah?
It's Minority Report.
Oh, boy.
First of all, just the blocking and staging alone in this is why Steven Spielberg is the best director of all time.
The effects that were used to show off this technologically advanced world is amazing, too.
It's gorgeous, but then the action.
Oh, yeah.
Every chase sequence, every fight sequence. It's like a Tom Cruise movie dialed up to 11, especially with the argument of being in this world where these 3 people that they have connected to brains, that they connect wires to their brains, they can predict when someone is about to commit a crime, such as murder, and they're only testing it out in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And they have locked up a lot of people who are basically put into stasis, basically this frozen stasis chamber, and you're basically judged before you can even commit the crime. And Tom Cruise is the head of the organization that leads this.
Oh, yeah.
And they're planning to roll it out to the entire nation very soon. However, he gets told he is going to be murdering someone, and now has to try and figure out why am I being told that I'm going to kill someone, figure out what's going on behind the scenes, clear his name, and all the while rectifying with his demons of the past, which made him this way.
Yeah.
Which is how he lost his son. And now you have this amazing story. Colin Farrell is the main villain of this film, and he is terrifying. And I don't know if I can really speak more to this film without spoiling it. All I will say is go in blind to Minority Report. It is I think, one of Spielberg's masterpieces. I think it's one of the strongest action movies ever made. It has a lot of questions about morality and life. And on top of that, it's just cool.
Oh, yeah.
The rule of cool applies to Minority Report, but it is one of the best. And a lot of people don't put it very high on their lists for Spielberg's films. For me, it's probably in my top 5.
I actually, I put it in my top 10 personally. I can't say any more. You pretty much nailed it all on the head. I think the one scene that really made me go, oh, was, without getting into too much details, Tom Cruise's character has to make a certain change to his face, and he has to recover from that change, and then some robots come in and they're about to take off the bandages. It is a really tense scene, and he's hiding underwater, by the way. Like, I was holding my breath when I was watching this thing. Can I hold my breath as long as him? No, okay. Oh, that's a suspenseful sequence. That's just suspense, not the adrenaline pump right there.
The adrenaline pump in this movie is insane.
But to be fair, the sequence where he's on that conveyor belt and he gets made into he winds up in the production process of that futuristic Lexus and steals the car. I thought that was actually really cool too.
It is a really cool sequence.
That's barely scratching the surface, so go see the movie.
Watch the movie. I hate to promote Paramount Plus, but that is a reason to get Paramount Plus, is to watch Minority Report.
Or if you're a person who likes to collect physical media, buy it on Blu-ray.
Absolutely.
That's what I would do.
All right. We are getting down to the final 2.
I'm starting to notice a few things about my list, which I'll bring up in a little bit. One is that a lot of these are movies that I watched when I was like a teenager or like an early adult. So that's why I find real interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said,
Number
next
2.
movie, number 2. Another thing I noticed about my list is from 5 up, a lot of the characters go through a bunch of trials and tribulations and take a lot of hits along the way. And boy, do you feel those hits. This is a movie that really, really amps that up to 11. This would be The Raid. A movie that does a lot with its martial arts combat and its semi-realistic filmmaking style. It is the story, which is very simple. Squad of police or SWAT officers in the Philippines are busting a drug raid in a building that have a bunch of other dangerous gangsters, some with machetes, some with specific sets of skills. And the movie essentially becomes one cop going up against the entire drug army as his whole squadron has been killed by these violent gangsters. Every hit you feel, from the punch to or a knife cutting someone, or just even hiding from a bunch of vicious people who are like stabbing the wall to find you, you feel all that pain and that fear that they're going through. It is such a riveting movie. I don't want to go into too much. It's one of those, like, again, fast-paced action that feels so realistic. The hits feel like they actually hurt. I truly wonder how they did that. I think there may have been one digital shot in this movie because a character jumps out of a window and uses another person as a cushion for their fall. But that's about it. This is just, it's a very vicious, ferocious movie. I don't want to spoil anything for y'all. And it's silent filmmaking.
I've never seen this movie, and I want to now.
Oh yeah, definitely give it a look. What's your number 2?
My number 2, I'm kind of I went with you for a little bit into the John Wick universe.
Oh yeah.
But while I love the first John Wick, there was one I saw recently that quickly became my favorite action movie of all time. Well, second favorite.
Nah.
We'll get to number 1.
Oh, we're getting there.
Number 2, it's John Wick 3.
John Wick 3 is just, well, you do it. It's your movie.
Oh, yeah. The entire franchise is amazing. And this movie does some really amazing sequences. I mean, from the start, it literally builds off the second movie. And John Wick is just on the run. He has to run.
And he's fighting so many people along the way.
And and the way that they keep moving the story forward, how he has to cross continents to get to where he needs to go. And you know what? The whole movie is very good. I'd say it was on par with the first 2.
Yes.
And then you get to the final hour of this movie. And this final hour, it takes place entirely in the Continental. And you get something akin to Bruce Lee's The Tower.
Yes.
In some of the most emotional fights of the movie. But also, probably some of the best I've ever seen in any film ever.
You've got looks like men wearing samurai armor, and they're carrying like firearms at one point in that fight. It was like that. How did we get here?
You get to this, and that fight is already incredible, the way he takes them all out. Then you get to, of course, the sequence in the glass office and climbing it up. And you know it's been coming with how they've been teasing and building it up.
Oh, yeah.
And it is like a 3-level layer fight sequence. Just a giant fight. It's like a freaking 3 bosses that you're having to go up against
in
a video game.
Yeah. I think my favorite fight sequence, it was just one. It was the sequences involving Halle Berry and her dogs.
Oh, that sequence was beautiful.
I don't want to spoil anything there, but Halle Berry's got some dogs in this movie. That's
the
all
best
I'll say.
part is the villain of this movie is somebody who admires John Wick. And in real life, he's not only a brilliant martial artist, they show this off a little bit in the movie, he is a incredible chef.
Yeah.
Like, he is an amazing cook. But and he's done some acting, but he mostly is a cook. So when my dad was like, yeah, he's just really a cook most of the time in real life. And I was blown away by his performance and his work. An incredible stuntman, an incredible martial artist.
Yeah.
And he injects so much life into this character. They could have hired him just for the martial arts and would have been great. But the fact that his performance injects tried and true, you feel who this character is, and he's very 3-dimensional.
Yeah.
And then when the movie ends, it makes you so excited for where the 4th movie is going, which I sadly have not seen yet.
I have it on me. Well, not now, but yeah, I've got the movie physically, so.
And it's such a great sequence. I remember when I watched it recently, I couldn't even force myself to look at my phone. I was glued to the screen. I was glued to this entire story. And yeah, the entire John Wick franchise is great. The third one, for the most part, is about as great as it can be on the same level of the first 2. And then you get to this final hour, and it became one of the best action films I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's brilliant. And yet, It's not my
not
number
number
one.
one.
However, we're going to quickly get into our honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions for me. I had Aliens at first at one point, 300, True Lies. I also had The Matrix, Gladiator, Fast Five, Point Break, Face Off, Terminator 2, and Hero.
My quick honorable mentions: Inception, Gladiator, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, One Battle After Another, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Die Hard, Kingsman, Casino Royale, and Logan.
Oh boy.
Man, I could watch any of those films.
Really, me too.
And yet, we got to do number one.
So here's something I also noticed about my list. Both my number 1 and my number 10 grossed $1 billion at the box office. And meanwhile, everything in between was practically like stuff that did well critically but didn't do well financially. That's something interesting I noticed. But number 1, this is a movie from a franchise my dad introduced me at the perfect age of 11. This franchise about a British spy who travels around the world and kicks so much ass and looks so cool doing it. This movie, first of all, thank you, Dad, for introducing me to James Bond, because without me knowing about James Bond, I would have never seen the movie Skyfall. Ooh. My favorite action movie of all time. This is a story, for those who don't know too much about James Bond, as I said, British spy, travels around the world, kicks a lot of ass, looks great doing it. If you're a man, if you've got a son, if he's 10, show him this. Definitely do that. Which one? Any one. Doesn't matter. Anywho, this is a story about James Bond who is, his body is starting to fail him as he's getting older in this line of work. And yet he's still brought back into the service. He's got his license to kill. He's got a set of teammates to help him go on this mission that pushes his strength to the limits. And this is kind of what you were building off of with one of your movies earlier, how each action scene really pushes the character, not only physically, but emotionally through the story. Bond has to stay calm and zen throughout the whole movie, but this is building up to something that's tearing him up inside, and it does. It brings him back to his childhood home at one point. And he has to not make a hard decision, but he just has to essentially confront his demons in a manner he just didn't want to. And it's almost like, he does resolve his inner demons, but it's mainly what he feels like he needs to do as a person in his responsibility for not as an agent, but for protecting people who are close to him. Not romantically. There's not a romantic love interest in this movie, I remember, which I thought was interesting. But I don't want to go too much details. This movie's just so awesome. The set pieces. We get an opening set piece with a motorcycle chase on some rooftops. We get a action set piece involving some Komodo dragons. Then we get an action set piece that has a chase in the London subway with some explosives. And then we get a set piece with some beautiful lighting and cinematography somewhere in Glasgow, I believe, or Scotland. I don't remember specifically off the top of my head, but this movie was shot by Sam Mendes, was directed by Sam Mendes, the man who gave us American Pie. No, not Pie. Oh, American Beauty. American Pie.
That would have been quite a jump.
That would have been quite a jump, but American Beauty. Now, that movie has no action in it. So a guy who goes from American Beauty to Skyfall, it is quite the transition. And the movie is shot gorgeously,
I think he directed Casino Royale as well.
No, he didn't. That was Martin Campbell.
Oh, interesting. I thought Martin Campbell directed GoldenEye.
No, he did direct GoldenEye. Campbell directed GoldenEye and Casino Royale. Mendes did Skyfall and Spectre.
Gotcha.
That's what he did. And both movies, Skyfall is the best looking out of all of them. It got 5 Oscar nods for a reason, and it won 2 of them for a reason. Skyfall is a movie I'll remember watching in the theater with my friend, and this was actually one of those movies where my parents learned I was going to go see, and then they were like, "Wait, you're going to go see Skyfall? Hang on a sec." And then they tagged along with me and my friends because my dad's a James Bond fan, and so is my mom. Actually, they both love James Bond. They both love Daniel Craig as my favorite, primarily because I grew up with him. So the more I talk about this, the more I now want to go back home and watch it. So definitely check out James Bond, and at some point check out Skyfall.
So my number 1, it's interesting how when Ben got here and he was saying, I think Avatar is going to be on your list, and surprisingly it was not.
That was very surprised.
But there is a James Cameron movie that ended up on this list. It is my number 1. It is the action movie that I think every action movie tries to be. And that is Terminator 2.
Oh, man. I mean, go on. Yeah.
just what else can I say? The first Terminator is already great and gave us an iconic Arnold Schwarzenegger villain.
That was terrifying too.
Second movie comes around, the trailers revealed it. He's the hero.
And people were like, what?
And Robert Patrick plays a better version of the Terminator.
Yes.
And he is hunting down a child and continuing the story for the main character from the first film. She's back, and she is no longer little damsel in distress.
Sarah Connor.
Sarah Connor is full-on action
bear.
mama bear,
Yeah.
and she destroys it in this movie.
No, she is the main character of this movie. I will argue. Arnold is in the promotion. He is on the posters. He is the top billed actor.
I'd argue it's Sarah and John are the main characters. It's definitely a John Connor film since all of it focuses around him.
Yeah, I'd say the heart is very much Sarah Connor, but you could be right. I only say Sarah Connor because she has the dialogue, the narration. So that's why I say she's very much the main character. But keep going.
Of course, and what's cool about this movie, of course, it pushed CG animation into new heights, especially with the T-2000.
But even then, T-1000.
With the T-1000. But then...
Even then, the CG at the time, that was like, this is the best we can do. Okay, well, is it any good? They were still like, because they didn't know what to do with it at the time.
And it leads to some of the most scariest tense sequences, such as they put the T-1000 in front of these bars.
Yes.
Thinking that's going to stop him, and he just liquefies and phases through them. And then at one point, he turns into the tile to sneak around.
Yeah.
And slaughters people.
And he can take the form of people that touch him.
Yep. And so he's able to just straight up murder people using their face.
Yes.
And, oh, it's so creepy. But on top of how great the CG is, the practical work is insane. Whenever there's a helicopter that needs to fly over a bridge, they flew a helicopter over a bridge.
And then under a bridge.
And then under a bridge. Almost every explosion in this movie was done practically.
The freaking car chases. Like, you've got the kid on a motorcycle. Granted, he probably had a stunt person, but you got a kid trying to run away from a guy driving a semi, and you got Arnold with a shotgun driving another motorcycle, like twirling it and hitting the locks off of gates to get closer to this kid.
And then we'll get to what I would argue is probably one of the best finales ever put to film, in The Factory.
Yeah.
It is one of the best put to film.
First, we get one of the best kill lines in the movie, which we won't spoil here for those who haven't seen the movie. But then we get...
And then he later says that's not going to stop him. It gets to this insane, incredible, tense fight that I think James Cameron is still trying to chase.
Yeah, and even then, like I said, these are movies where you feel the pain in some of these people, like in Skyfall and The Raid. For your movie, even The Terminator, these are robots. I felt pain for the Terminator as he was getting his head smashed by like that metal object.
Oh,
I was like, oh my God.
This film, of course, it's a mother trying to save her son. It takes the villain, the epic villain of the first movie, makes him the freaking hero.
And it puts him like, quote unquote, not weak, but it makes him like, no, I'm not nowhere near as bad as this guy.
And it makes a AI confront itself and ask about its programming. And it's just, it of course delivers that philosophy amidst some of the coolest action, some of the best shootouts.
Yes.
And when the movie ends, it can't end on any other note. They actually did end the movie on a potential ending, positive ending.
That would not have worked.
They wanted to do sequels, so they decided not to use that ending.
Yeah.
But yeah, when this final shot ends, you're like, yeah, there's no other way this movie could end. One of, in my opinion, it is probably James Cameron's best movie.
I think James Cameron.
It is easily my favorite action film of all time.
I think what James Cameron nailed with this movie was the blend of practical and CG, like you were saying earlier, because when something was destroyed, it was usually a practical effect, but when something was repairing itself, it was a CG effect. Like when the T-1000 gets shot with a bullet, you see the bullet hole, but then afterwards it's a computer, like digital, at the time, cutting edge, like a little fade.
Right.
And then even cooler there's a sequence where the T-1000 takes the form of John Connor's mom, Sarah Connor, and this was interesting. They didn't use CG to replicate Linda Hamilton or a stunt double. You want to know what they did? They got her twin sister to play the fake version of herself. So brilliant.
Right.
Just so brilliant.
It really is just this... it's such smart filmmaking.
And James
It's
Cameron just
really
solidifying
done.
himself as like one of the greatest directors out there and just giving us a knockout performance, mainly from Linda Hamilton.
Right. Linda Hamilton is brilliant in this. Arnold Schwarzenegger, for a monotone character, really finds a lot of depth in
And
his
heart,
character.
yeah.
And then the kid who plays John just kills it because he feels so natural. He feels like a kid, but he also feels like he fully understands the weight and gravity of the situation.
Well, because he grew up as a delinquent, and at first his mom probably didn't put him in a good environment. So this is the kind of world that like it was crazy, and now it's finally starting to make sense to him. But yeah, that's the kid felt really, really well developed in an era where kids in most action movies were usually. Well, they weren't seen as the cute thing, but they were usually seen as dead weight, with the exception of Short Round, in my opinion.
It also led to the best joke in one of the best jokes in Last Action Hero when Arnold is walking through with the kid and the T-1000 just walks out and it's Robert Patrick making a quick
Yeah.
cameo and he's like, wait, that was the... And it's so clever and great. But yeah, Terminator 2, highly recommend it. First Terminator is pretty good. The second Terminator is the best action movie in my personal favorite.
Yeah. Well, folks, that does it for our top 10 action movie, our favorite action movies of all time. Please let us know what's an action movie you really love in our comments. We're more than happy to check it out. I'm more than happy to check it out too.
And there's no episode next week, but we will be trying to be back the other week with something which we hope is going to be pretty good. But until then, we'll see you next time.
Take care, y'all.